Welcome in to another edition of the Old North State Sports Show, folks. Today we're going to do things a little bit differently. So as I navigate how I want to create this show, there's a few things that I like to do. Primarily, most of my content is free form. It's, hey, let's think of this idea. Let's put this thing here. Some of the other content that we're going to put together or that I've been working through is more scripted. So sitting down, thinking through, hey, what do I actually want to say in this episode? How can I convey that to you guys and break it down? And so again, for the podcast listeners, it's going to be probably a seamless approach. Like, I don't think there's going to be much change, but for those of you that tune in and watch my content, maybe look a little bit differently as I look at the screen a little bit more. Again, I try new things. This is the purpose of me doing this. But today we are here to break down the Carolina Panthers defensive makeover coming out of free agency. So this is not a tweak. It's a full-on mission to fix the defense. And let's be real, this was a defense that hit rock bottom last season. We're talking franchise worst in most points allowed in a season in team history, second most total yards in the NFL, and third most rushing yards league-wide. I mean, this team was just utterly terrible. It was ugly, folks. Most points allowed. And we're kind of looking at team history. Let's talk NFL history. That's how bad it was. Top 5 in rushing yards allowed in NFL history with a 5-12 record. Now, beginning was very rough. Let's not sugarcoat this at all. Absolutely was bumpy. Some things on offense, a lot of things on defense, and then you merge those together, and it was tough. But this offseason, what we've seen is a collaborative effort, because it's been referenced, between Dan Morgan, Brant Tillis, and Dave Canales. So if you go back to last year after taking over, Morgan has been talking about a culture shift for those folks that have tuned in. Oh my gosh, how many people remember the dog speech? I think at this point, if I hear any more about dogs, and it's not a Georgia Bulldog that's being drafted by the Carolina Panthers, we're going to have a problem. That's the vibe, though, he's chasing, trying to get these players. He's even referenced drafting good players from schools like Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, schools that know how to win football games, because that's important. That's what the Panthers need to do as they build a culture. Relentless players who leave it all on the field. This offseason, he didn't just stop at names. He's been looking for some of those guys, big, physical, competitive folks that fit the modern NFL. We talk about the 3-4 scheme with Ejiro Evero and the ability to get some bigger bodies down on the defensive line and what that can mean. We want guys who are strong, this is the quote, and go 100% every play. It's less about perfect height or measurables and more about heart and hustle. And those things are cliche. Like, you can talk a lot about it, but it does add up. You want guys that are committed to winning, committed to getting better, that are hitting the weight room, that are going to OTAs, that are studying film, that are doing all the things that you have to do to win football games. So, of course, where did the Carolina Panthers start? The trenches and the secondary, two spots that needed desperate help. Defensive line last year, without Derek Brown, was pretty much left up to A'Shawn Robinson, throwing a shy Tuttle. It wasn't good. And I'm not, no offense, LeBron Ray or anyone else, glad you're back. Run defense was a welcome mat for folks to just charge right through us. Not good at all. So Morgan and Tillis attacked free agency. As some would say, like it was Black Friday, signing 3 linemen to beef up the front. You landed Patrick Jones II, 26-year-old pass rusher from the Vikings. Tershawn Turk Wharton, a Chiefs standout who had been on Brant Tillis's radar. 37 tackles, 8.5 sacks, also including the playoffs. And then Bobby Brown III, 25-year-old run stopper from the Rams, who's young, versatile, and as Morgan put it, has untapped pass rush upside. A lot of the talk around the Panthers is upside, potential, kind of look at as stocks that I've referenced, like, hey, Amazon from 30 years ago. I don't even know if Amazon was around then. It doesn't matter. Apple from 30 years ago. These stocks that are going to explode. They're more focused on what you can do versus what you have done, and that's where the Panthers sit. So you beef up the defensive front all across there, looking at the interior, even throwing in an edge. Important pieces that this team has needed. Secondary, of course, bringing in Trayvon Moehring, fresh off a career high, 104 tackles with the Raiders, bringing you versatility. He's played everywhere from safety to nickel, and we're not locking him into one role per Morgan. They'll figure it out once the full defense takes shape. But as of now, when you think about the safety room, there is some work to do because you have Moehring, you have Damani Richardson, and you re-signed Nick Scott. And to be honest, that room is thin, and I'm not sold on Nick Scott. I'm probably more sold on Damani Richardson, but you need another high-caliber level starter. It can happen through free agency. They can bring some guys in, but we'll find out. We've hinted at snagging more veterans. Julian Blackman has come across, Marcus Williams. We know those guys visited, or they will be able to tap into the draft and get a ball hawking safety. Guys need it. So you got the safety position addressed to an extent. Still some holes to be filled. Taking a look down, so you establish defensive front, defensive line. You bring back Derek Brown. You throw in some edge. Probably need some more edge. You have safeties. We haven't really talked about linebacker, but we will in a second. We can talk about cornerbacks, establishing and bringing back J.C. Horn on a very nice extension and locking up Mike Jackson. So you have your two corners, still a need at nickel. But overall, at least the cornerback position heading into the draft isn't a desperate need for the Panthers unless they wanted it. We saw what the Eagles did with Cooper DeJean as a nickel and moving him around and how successful they were. There could be a possibility that the Panthers could do that. Having someone that can lock down a slot wide receiver, come off the edge, make some plays, can't undersell that at all. You think about the linebacking core. You brought in Roseboom over from LA. You still have Josie Jewell and Trevin Wallace, but I am not sold there. And so when we talk about versatility for some of these guys and the ability, if you could get a 2-for-1 in Jalen Walker, which is kind of where I sit right now, it makes sense to me. Like if we're pushing in one direction, unless we're going straight up edge with Mykel Williams, Mike Green, Pierce, whoever your guy, whoever your edge rusher is that you want to pick, I think the Panthers are in really good position. So this whole rebuild is taking shape. You're adding depth at a lot of places. The Panthers did not have a lot of depth last year. You still have concerns with linebacker and safety, but cornerback, your defensive front, and then throw in an edge. This team, as long as they can remain healthy, should be a pretty competitive team heading into next season. So, as always, appreciate you guys tuning in. Let me know what you guys think about the state of the Carolina Panthers defense. As always, this is Carolina Dad. Y'all have a good one.